You're looking for a tool that actually works day in and day out, something you can set up on a rainy construction site or a dusty backyard and trust to stay true without you having to babysit it. You don't want a glossy spec sheet that sounds impressive until you're holding it in the cold, mud's splattered morning light, and wondering if you just wasted your money. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I started digging into rotary laser levels, the first thing that kept me up at night was the sheer number of options that promise professional grade, but end up being fragile or short-lived. A lot of reviewers complain about units that can't handle a splash of rain or that lose accuracy after a few weeks of use. On the flip side, the really heavy-duty models can cost as much as a small power tool set and still be a pain to move around. That's the sweet spot I was trying to find, a laser that survives the elements, reaches far enough to cover a whole site, and doesn't feel like you're lugging a piece of industrial equipment into your garage. The STABILA LAR 300 is marketed as a rotary laser set with a tripod, built to be ultra-durable, IP65 waterproof and dustproof, temperature-tolerant, and with a long range of up to 2,600 feet. Those are the headlines, but let's break down what they really mean when you pull the box out of the truck. First off, durability isn't just a buzzword here. The housing is a solid, molded shell that feels like a small piece of equipment you'd find on a road crew. I've taken it out to a job site that was still wet from a night of rain, set it up on a concrete pad, and the laser stayed on target while a downpour turned the ground into a slick mess. The IP65 rating guarantees it can handle that kind of exposure. You won't be worrying about water seeping into the electronics and killing the unit midday. That same dust-proofing held up on a dusty demolition site where wind was constantly kicking sand around the tripod. In both scenarios, the laser stayed calibrated, which is a big win for anyone who can't afford to stop work to relevel a tool. Range is another practical factor. The 2,600-foot claim isn't just a number on a brochure. It translates into fewer relocations on a large job. I tested it on a 1,200-foot stretch of a newly laid driveway, and the rotating beam stayed visible across the entire length, even when the sun was low in the sky. Because the laser rotates 360 degrees, you get a continuous line instead of a pulsing dot that you have to chase. For a contractor laying a foundation slab or a landscaper grading a hill, that means you can set the laser once, walk the whole perimeter, and check elevations without constantly resetting. Now, the strengths are clear: rugged construction, weather resistance, and a reach that eliminates a lot of the move the laser every 50 feet headaches. The set also includes a tripod that locks firmly into place, even on uneven ground. The tripod legs have rubber caps that grip soil or concrete, so the laser doesn't wobble when a gust of wind hits. This stability is essential for getting accurate reference lines over long distances. A shaky mount can ruin the whole level, and the LAR 300 seems to avoid that. There are a few trade-offs you should be aware of. The unit runs on a rechargeable battery, but STABILA doesn't publish exact runtime figures. In my field test, a full charge lasted me through an 8-hour workday on moderate usage, but if you're planning continuous operation on a multi-day project, you'll want a spare battery or a way to charge on site. The laser's visibility is green, which is generally easier to see than red in bright conditions, but on a scorching noon with a bright blue sky, the line can still fade into the background at the far end of its range. That's a limitation of physics rather than the product itself, but it's worth noting if you often work in full daylight without any shading. Another point is weight. At just over 5 pounds, the LAR 300 isn't a sack of bricks, but it's definitely heavier than some of the compact line laser models that fit in a pocket. If you're the type who needs to carry the laser up a ladder or into a cramped attic, that extra heft could feel like a small inconvenience. On the other hand, that weight contributes to its stability. The heavier the unit, the less it gets knocked off level by minor bumps or wind gusts. Who should consider buying this? If you're a professional contractor, an electrician who needs to run conduit over a large site,